Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Yes, my friends, conservative, not bitter indeed. These leftists have lost whatever was left of their collective minds as they are defending, explaining, trying to minimize, excuse these riots happening in the city of Los Angeles, even as the mayor herself imposes a curfew, which seems to be a weird thing to do for a Democrat leading a city in which it is just peaceful protest. Why would you have a curfew if people are just out there being as peaceable as peace would allow them to be? It is a remarkable conclusion for a Democrat especially to conclude, my friends. Got lots I want to get to today, starting with folks, I try to be nice on here. Listen, I'm not big, we'll have nicknames for people to make a political point. This is not a personal, vendetta or enterprise for me. The politics of personal destruction, as Hillary Clinton would have said. How does she say that? The politics of, I forget exactly how she said that now, but I'm not about destroying the individuals. In fact, I would like to, as a follower of Jesus, I would like to see those who are embracing true evil policies and wickedness to repent and to turn from those things. That's what I would like to see. Some of you think that that's a little bit of pie in the sky thinking, but with man, all things are certainly not possible, but with God, anything is possible. God gets a hold of a person, those things are certainly possible. I'm not here to tear people down, but I'm also here to tell you the truth. I'm here to tell you the truth as best as I see it, and sometimes you're left with obvious choices, right? So you've got people here in the media, in the Democrat Party, and elsewhere, who are telling us that, well, first of all, they were telling us that there's no violence happening in Los Angeles. Now they're telling us, and this is what I want to start with today, that it's not illegal to be here illegally. So I'm left, put yourself in my shoes for a minute. You either conclude that knowing that what you're saying is a bunch of bunk and bogus, just absurd ridiculousness. You either knowingly say things that you know are not true, or you believe it. And so I don't know how else to look at this. They're either intentionally deceptive. That's why I use the phrase professional deceivers on this program, because if you're making money to tell people things that you know are lies, you are a professional deceiver. I don't know how else to shake this out, break this down. Or, again, this is where some people might think this is personal, but just as a matter of fact, I know no other way of describing it other than saying they believe this garbage, which is idiotic, which, of course, you can draw your conclusion on what someone who believes idiotic things would tend to seem to be, but these are our choices. We're either dealing with professional deceivers or people who are acting out of pure idiocy. Either way, they've completely abdicated their responsibilities. They've violated whatever trust we may have had with these knuckleheads and clowns. And I want to talk about this because now I've got two people. One is a former Univision anchor. The other, of course, are the wonderful ladies on The View telling us that, listen, this is not illegal to be here illegally. It's unbelievable, my friends, but hey, everything else the radical left tells us is as well. Friends, do you know where your money goes after you spend it? If that answer makes you cringe, if it makes you wonder, are the people I'm spending business with funding these clowns and knuckleheads that I was just talking about here off the top of the program? If that's the case, it's time to check out Freedom Marketplace. We have built this program to connect conservatives like you with businesses that share your values, businesses that refuse to support leftist causes and pure idiocy like I've been talking about here this morning. It's free to use. There's nothing required from you. It's all about, the bottom line here, all about keeping your dollars aligned with your principles. You can do that by visiting freedommarketplace.net today. And you can share this too, folks. You know, the advertisers, of course, this is our division, Freedom Marketplace, which helps the advertisers. It's free to use. No one has to pay Freedom Marketplace anything as a person to use it as a consumer. The businesses pay for a listing, but the more that you share and promote these things, the more it helps us by helping the businesses that are associated. When you share the content, when you share stuff about the advertisers or things like Freedom Marketplace, those are things you can do to help this program. I get asked that from time to time. That's one easy way that you can do that. Liberty, by the way, and business for all my friends at freedommarketplace.net. Let's start here with this idiocy. We've got a Univision anchor who is on, where are we? Are we at CNN, MSNBC? You know my thoughts on this. It doesn't matter where we are this is CNN as I'm looking here. They're all the same. These folks in the media, they're all the same. They're all the same. And I don't mean that as some insult to their, well, I guess I kind of do. But it's not some sort of a personal insult again. It's to say they all try to, well, malign the things that the people that we agree with, the beliefs that we have. Us as conservatives, they try to attack, malign, misrepresent, deceive. That's what they do. So it doesn't matter to me what logo is in the bottom of the corner here. All of these folks in the media, like CNN, like MSNBC, NBC, CBS, you name it, they're all, by and large, for all intents and purposes, the same. So you have a former Univision journalist, well, make-believe journalist, go on to MSNBC and literally make the argument that it is not illegal to enter this country illegally. I kid you not, my friends. I kid you not. Listen to this yourself.
Use the word illegal. It is undocumented. Coming into the country without documents, it's not illegal. It's not a crime. It is excuse me. It is a can I finish, please? It is a misdemeanor. And
it's against the law.
It is
if I
misdemeanor.
still come, it's a misdemeanor, but I broke the law.
It is a misdemeanor, just like DUI is a misdemeanor, just like indecent
I've been hit by a
exposure
drunk driver who died. Don't tell me that's a misdemeanor when he crashed my family over 100 miles an hour. I'm sorry. That if you want to say that DUI is somehow a misdemeanor and we should treat it like it's not committing a criminal act, you said it's a misdemeanor like it's the same thing.
It is a misdemeanor, just like coming into the
It's still breaking the law.
But that's not the point.
That's not the point, she says. Oh, boy.
There's a lot of misconceptions, and one of them is that it is a misdemeanor to come into the country illegally. If you get deported and then come back in, then it becomes a crime. But even then, if it becomes a crime, that doesn't mean that you're a rapist and that you're a murderer and that you're a drug dealer.
Are you listening to this? I can't. There's no way that she is this stupid. There's no way that she is this stupid. Did you listen to what she said? She's being serious. Remember yesterday, the past few days, we were being told that this was mostly peaceful. Mostly peaceful. Now, the mayor has declared a curfew. Mayor, who's a Democrat, Karen Bass, declared a curfew, ordered a curfew in the city of Los Angeles. Why? Because things had gotten too tense, too violent. There's been there's been looting, my friends. Looting. Is looting peaceful protest? I've been through this. I don't enjoy what's going on. I enjoy a little bit mocking this because if you can't see this, I don't know what to say. It's comical to me. It's terrifying to me when you have political power. it's comical to me when you don't, because this demonstrates exactly why you don't have political power, because this is utter insanity. Your city is burning to the ground. Do you see that there are people out there, I've seen them on social media, they've said that the police, law enforcement, have been causing the damage to their own cars. And primarily, now there's other videos, I'm sure, but there's one video that picks up and it shows a cop car windshield that has been smashed in. It's been shattered, probably by some of the concrete or bricks and asphalt that they've been throwing off of overpasses in Los Angeles during their peaceful protests. And there's, holes in the windshield, but it's pretty much just shattered. And you know that windshields, this is something that developed as we learn more after the invention of the automobile, and there was a lot of problems with windshield shattering and really causing massive problems, injuries, and death to people who were driving them because you had shattered glass that was basically just falling in on them. Then they improved that to where it would shatter, but it wouldn't just be large shards of glass. It's constructed in such a way that the glass, while it will break, it doesn't just fall in on the person inside the car, but it's shattered, right? You can envision what I'm saying. They can be absolutely shattered to where you can't see out. It's completely unusable. And so there's video of law enforcement officers in Los Angeles with their pickaxe or something where they're trying to bust the rest of this out. Now, the video doesn't start with a nice, neat, clean, unbroken windshield and then showing officers beating it to tar, beating the heck out of it themselves. No, it shows starting a shattered windshield, and it shows officers trying to basically remove the windshield so that it's a car that they can see to drive it out before it's probably going to get burned to the ground. But somebody thinks because they show a video starting point of a police cruiser with the windshield shattered, it then shows officers trying to make holes in the windshield or even get the windshield completely out with their some sort of a hammer or pickaxe device. I don't know what they were using, but that's proof to people. I told you the police are setting us up. The police are staging this. The police are the ones who are damaging their own cars. This can't be the case because. Well, this has to be the case because there can't be any violence happening in Los Angeles because we've been told they were peaceful protests. These are peaceful protests. The law enforcement, listen, there are examples of law enforcement officers doing things they shouldn't be doing, 100%. There are examples of law enforcement officers, and I know we've got plenty of law enforcement officers who listen to this program. I appreciate and respect what you do. Some darn good law enforcement officers out there today, thankfully. People who are willing to stand in the way of this nonsense to try to restore law and order to our cities, who put themselves in harm's way in order to protect the average law-abiding citizen in this great nation, of which there are still plenty. People who are going to go out and confront these people and try to prevent them from burning cities to the ground here on June 14th. Have you seen that, by the way? June 14th, there's going to be a bunch of these. What is today? June 11th. So what does that make it? 12th. So Saturday. Is that Saturday the 14th? Saturday is the 14th. Coming to a city near you. In fact, I tweeted out there's a website. There's a website you can go to. Let me find this stupid thing. NoKings.org. NoKings.org. They're organizing these protests. I'm only telling you to be aware. I'm not telling you because you should be involved. That's not it at all. In fact, some of these folks, I think, are wanting people, average people, to try to get involved. This is law enforcement's responsibility to keep these things under control, to arrest people who break the law, to allow the people who want to peacefully protest to peacefully protest. And it's the job of the rest of us to go about our business, not listening to the nonsense that's going to be coming from some of these things. I mean, they can say whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. They can't do whatever they want. We have to let law enforcement deal with this. But there's going to be a lot of protests around the country, even in small towns. I saw there's one scheduled for Nashville, Indiana, which is a tiny little town in Brown County. That's, 40 minutes south of me, maybe something like that. I saw one scheduled for Greencastle, Indiana, probably led by students that have been led astray by radical leftist professors over there at DePaul. I don't know. There's small towns. It's not just the big cities. Be ready for this to come to a town or a city near you. Of course, Los Angeles is massive. The population of Los Angeles County, my friends, is greater than a huge number of U.S. states. I know there's more people in Los Angeles County, I'm pretty sure, than there are in the whole state of Indiana, regardless. And Indiana is not one of the tiniest states. Regardless, this is what we are dealing with. And they've gone from saying they are peaceful and we're crazy and we're misrepresenting what's really happening by saying that there are violent riots and that sort of thing, which of course there are. There's evidence that abounds all over the place on social media. It's even gotten so bad that some of the media has had to cover them. Some of these media clips show burning cars on a split screen, and then some knucklehead politician or leftist narrative creator, mythical creator of narratives for the radical left, over there, as pictures show cities in flames, and Los Angeles in flames, they're over there telling us that this is a peaceful protest. There's no violence happening in the streets. You think starting fires in cities, setting cars on fire, is that not violent to you? Is throwing concrete and bricks at police, law enforcement agents, or members of law enforcement, is that not violent? What the world is going on here? Is looting not violent? To storm into a store, crashing through the windows, and then just overwhelming staff, grabbing what you want off the shelf, and having mass theft happen right before the eyes of anyone, cameras and everything else. Is that not violent? The world is going on here, my friends. This is the fruit. I said this yesterday. I will say it again. This is the fruit of leftist ideology. They have sown their seed. It has taken root. It has grown. And we are witnessing what the fruit of this morally bankrupt ideology looks like in real time. Now, we have a choice to make. We can say, look, I don't want any more problems. This is too intense for me. What do they want? Just appease them and we'll live in peace again. That is the wrong tact to take. In fact, I'm encouraged, we'll get to this as the show unfolds, but I saw there was a journalist, I'm drawing a blank on which one, I'll get to it when we get to it. But he asked a U.S. attorney in Los Angeles if there's any level that the protests and violence or whatever could get to where the administration would stop doing raids, and he said no. And I say kudos to that. And people on the left think, oh my goodness, you're gonna let this erupt into, where's this stop? Well, it stops first and foremost at the level that the appropriate amount of law enforcement and personnel can make sure that this thing doesn't get passed. The people who are causing the problems need to be arrested. Remember, the people enforcing the law, no matter what the left wants you to believe, they are not the problem. The people who are the problem are the people who are breaking the laws. The people who are the problem are the ones who are setting the fires, the ones who are damaging police cars, the ones who are throwing things off of overpasses. These are the ones who are the problem. You know this, my friends. If you have the sense to tune into this program every day, you have the sense to figure this stuff out on your own, you know that this is in fact reality. What is not reality is blaming law enforcement. What is not reality is to say, oh, well, we should only enforce the law until one side, the other side, the folks who are breaking the law, decides that they're going to do something really, really extreme. No, the folks who are doing the extreme stuff should be the ones who are arrested. They should have to face the consequences of their actions, whether they are at the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021, or whether they are in the streets of Los Angeles on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. It is the same thing. And if you can't be consistent on that, again, look in the mirror, my friends. I know the vast majority of you this does not apply to, but there could be some knucklehead out there that's confused. I just say this for the sake of clarity. If you can't figure out that criminal activity that would have happened on January 6th needs to be dealt with according to the law, and likewise, criminal activity that happened and transpired on January 10th, 2025 in Los Angeles, likewise, should be dealt with in accordance with the law. If you can't come to grips with that and accept that, then look in the mirror, my friends. Congratulations, you found part of the problem. Now, the vast majority of you hear me say that, and you think of other people that this applies to. This doesn't apply to the vast majority of people in this audience. This applies to the godless radical left who thinks that they are self-righteous, who don't even remotely understand the law, and as this knucklehead journalist or former journalist for Univision is out there saying, entering this country illegally or not having documentation, again, entering the country illegally, she says, is not illegal. What do you do with people like this? I don't even know. I don't even know. The level of critical thinking or the level of deception, I don't know which it is. It could be a combination. They either don't have the ability to connect dots or they don't have the ability to be truthful and to tell the truth. But either way, we end up at the same spot, a bunch of people who don't know the obvious or won't admit the obvious, which is that this is clearly a violation of law. So, this is also being said elsewhere. It's also being said by the ladies on The View. You know that I'm a huge fan of The View. Actually, I find clips of The View. Some of you don't like me playing those clips because you think, what relevance does this have to you? And in many ways, I would say you're right. But my goal is to understand the people, communicate what the people who that stuff appeals to thinks, because they exist, and we had better figure out how they think. Even if we can pull 1% of the people who believe this mind-numb stuff, if we can pull 1% of them over to truth, that's a massive step in the right direction, my friends. I've got to take a time out. The clock is telling me it's time to wrap up this segment. Sit tight, my friends. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. The radical left wants you to believe now that they can't any longer tell you that what you're witnessing in Los Angeles is not violent. I don't want to say they've given up on that. They'll still, look, if they've got the slightest bit of traction with these messages, they'll tell you. They will tell you that they'll continue to peddle the lie that there's no violence in Los Angeles, or that the violence is being caused by the folks who are trying to restore law and order to Los Angeles. But they're also looking for other examples to try to get other people to go along with this, to side with their side, which of course is the side of the radical, godless left. And so they'll say it's not illegal to come across the country, come across the border without your papers. Notice how they say this. They try to say this in the most, they try to make it sound so benign. It would be like saying, if you've been accused of breaking and entering, you say, look, I didn't. What I did was I went up to the door and I had to enter without using my key. That's really what happened. But what does that mean? Well, I didn't use a key because A, I didn't have one. B, it wasn't my property. They leave those details out, right? I'm just, for the sake of an analogy, this is how they describe illegal immigration. Well, they just didn't have their papers. Daggone it, forgot them back in the lockbox at home. I met a guy yesterday. He had to drive here, was planning to fly. He said he was on his way to the airport. It was a short flight. It's one of those trips that you could drive or fly that's about the same distance. starts to go to the airport, realizes he doesn't have his whatever he needs identification-wise to fly, so he just proceeds to drive to Indiana instead of flying. But that's what they make it sound like. He just, forgot his license at home. Daggone it, let the poor guy in. Again, it would be like saying someone who's guilty of breaking and entering was just trying to open a door who didn't have his key present. Well, forget the fact it's not his property. He doesn't own a key. It's been locked by the owner. Forget the fact that he used a lockpick set to break into the door, right? Okay, sue me. I broke in, but basically the media will say, well, he just entered without using his key. I mean, you can do this for any number of crimes. For example, you get in a fight in the street, assault and battery with somebody you've been charged with. I didn't assault anybody. I was just swinging my arm, and his face happened to be there, officer. I don't know. I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought he would move his face. I have a right to swing my arm. Yeah, but sir, you hit him in the face 11 times straight. Well, I got into a good pattern with my arm swings, and sue me. I hit him in the face 11 times. This is purely accidental. You're making a big deal out of this. That's how they treat this illegal immigration. It's patently, it's insulting to most Americans' intelligence. It's not, other people, it's kind of what they deserve because I don't know, you give up your responsibility to think for yourself. Some people have decided that they're not going to think, that they're going to regurgitate and repeat whatever they've been told by these clowns and knuckleheads in the media. Here's Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin will chime in as well on The View. They're trying to tell us, they're trying to convince us that illegal immigration is not illegal. What they want you to think now. Not really. Why are they sending the National Guard? These aren't even crimes, folks. First of all, the National Guard and the Marines have not been sent there to arrest people. That's the job of law enforcement. The National Guard and Marines have been sent there to try to restore order, protect things from being destroyed and set on fire and looting and rioting, to try to keep that from happening. Protect the city that's been allowed to be set on fire despite because of the leadership of Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, and Gavin Newsom, governor of California. Here's what Sarah Haynes from The View says.
66% of the American public actually thinks it is crime enough to be undocumented and therefore deported.
That it's criminal to be undocumented?
Yes, it is not. A massive amount of this country actually agrees with not how he's doing it, but with what he's doing.
So there's misinformation
I think the strategy here is he's leaning into a scene right now, creating a bigger thing, because it is the one thing that he remains supportive.
Let's fix that right now, because it is not illegal to be undocumented. It is not a crime to be undocumented.
It's what they're saying is the problem.
What is it? It's not illegal to be undocumented. These people, folks, these are the same people that bring you the illogical non-definition of what a woman is. These are the same people that when there's 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth will swear to you that that's not what the definition of a recession is. These people constantly lie and deceive. It is 100%. First of all, who came up with the term undocumented immigrant? I didn't come up with that term. They came up with that term. And why did they come up with that term? Well, I'm glad you asked why they came up with that term, because they didn't like the term illegal alien, right? You can't win debates if you're trying to excuse people who have been properly identified as illegal aliens. It's hard to win an argument like that. I mean, for the people who are superficial out there, who just get caught up in terms and all that sort of stuff, if they say, hold on, you're defending the illegal alien, and they say, yeah, well, I can't get my head around that, because I know what the word illegal means. Someone who is an alien, a foreigner who is here not in alignment with the law, you're defending them. That doesn't make sense. So they say, wait a minute, we got a problem here. We've got a massive problem. So let's change the words. Let's change the way that people talk about this. I don't know if there were other words before I know that there were. I think it was, I didn't look at the history, the devolution, the opposite of evolution, the devolution of how we've gone from illegal alien to undocumented migrant. It's crazy talk. It would be like calling someone who breaks into your house an undocumented resident, an undocumented resident of your home. Well, that's a burglar, man. That's a guy who's breaking and entering. That's someone who's not supposed to be here. Yeah, but it's not illegal for them to be. What do you mean it's not illegal to be there? Of course it's illegal to be there. These are word games that amount to nothing. This is sophistry 101. This is pure silliness, and it has to be mocked to the nth degree because this cannot be allowed to stand one moment. Of course, it is illegal to be in this country illegally. Do I need to say this louder for the people in the back? Again, just because you call someone an undocumented migrant or immigrant doesn't mean that that's what this is. We have laws. I have been through this. Dozens of times. We have laws on the books as to who can be in this country legally. These laws are not complicated to understand. It's pretty straightforward. You either have your credentials and the proper, paperwork, approval, whatever, to be in this country, or you do not. There's different classifications of people who can be here legally. You don't have to just be a citizen of the United States. You can be a permanent resident. You can be a temporary visa holder, whatever. But there are people that are here legally within the rule of the law, and there are people who are not. And the people who are undocumented, as you say, Sonny Hostin, are the people who are here illegally. Now, what's the confusion here? See, now this is intentional on their behalf. This is trying to conflate things. This is, in fact, you remember the first soundbite I played of the former Univision journalist who says it's not illegal, it's not a crime, and just because you're guilty of being here without your papers doesn't make you a rapist or a murderer. What on earth is she talking about? Who said that? I never said that. In fact, I've said quite the opposite. I said I understand that most of the people who come here are not violent criminals, but all of them who are here illegally broke the law. There's no two ways about this, my friends. I got more to say about this, as you might imagine. Before I do that, friends, if you own a company, if you work in HR, if you work in marketing, if you're looking for logoed merchandise, whether that be apparel, whether that be signage, trade show booths, trade show items to give away at a booth for a job fair, you name it. Anything with your logo on it, my friends, Red, White, and Brand is here to help you. RedWhiteandBrand.com is the website. You can take a look at the products there. You'll get 10% off if you use my name, Todd, during the checkout process. And my friends, you get free shipping on orders online. RedWhiteandBrand.com. Promo code Todd saves you 10%, and you get free shipping on orders placed online. Quick time out, my friends. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Absolute lunacy to say. It is 100% idiotic, deceptive, whatever, to say that being undocumented is not a crime, as we've been talking about. First it was, there's not really violence in these riots. These are peaceful protests. What are you talking about? People saw the video. They said, hey, call me crazy, but I saw the people throwing big chunks of asphalt at cop cars and officers. I saw them set stuff on fire. I saw some cars that barely resembled cars after they were virtually burnt to the ground. I saw people looting. I saw other things on fire. I saw violence. I've been told silence is violence, and I thought if silence is violence, all those things I just listed have to be violence as well. So that narrative isn't sticking. So now they've gone to, I'm sorry, it's the things that these people say and the audacity that they have to look at you as though you're the problem. I can't get over this. The same people who tell me in one breath that silence is violence literally look at me like I'm crazy because I say the Los Angeles riots are violent. You're just trying to stop peaceful protests, Todd. I don't care what these clowns say. They're wrong. They can say whatever they want. They can get mad about it. They can try to put political pressure on politicians to change the law. But this is beyond simple, my friends. The law is being broken. Trump is trying to enforce the law. You have a bunch of people that are trying to just basically throw a tantrum in the streets of Los Angeles. And by the way, coming to a city near you, town near you, very soon as well. And we've got two choices. You either let the petulant children who are throwing the tantrums have their way, or you follow the rule of law and see this thing through to its completion, no matter how much nonsense these folks do. They are the ones causing this. The people who are trying to stop it should not accept as an ultimatum, either capitulate and give in to our demands if you want to see peace, or we're going to continue to ratchet it up. That's never a recipe for good things. No, we're going to enforce the law. You can protest, you can voice your opinions, you can try to get legislation changed, you can do all that stuff, but we're not going to give in to your demands, and we're also not going to give in to this violence. And so now they're out there saying, Sonny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, I guess you could say, kind of said it, and then of course this former journalist for Univision said that it's not a crime to be undocumented. Yes, it is. It 100% is. Now, if you forgot your papers at home legitimately, then that's not a crime. Right? That's not a crime, but that's where the due process, see, all this makes perfect sense when you're on our side of this issue. It makes no sense when you're on their side, right? Is it against the law to speed? To not wear your seatbelt, to jaywalk? Yes, it's against the law. It doesn't mean that you're a criminal, that you're going to get thrown in the clink for these things, but it is a violation of the law. By the way, if something is in a piece of legislation, a bill that passes both houses of Congress, I'm talking federally here, U.S. Congress, U.S. House of Representatives, and the Senate, and then it is signed by the president, you know what just happened? They say the new bill became law. So if that bill, which is now the law, has language in it that says this is how you enter this country, and someone did it a different way or ignored it, they broke the law. This is something I can explain to my youngest is a 6th grader now. I think I could explain this to a kindergartner, to be quite honest. I think some of you out there have kids or grandkids that are probably preschool age that I could explain this to, but the left is too obtuse to want to try to understand this. Stop listening to these people who are either A, intentionally deceiving you, thereby becoming professional deceivers, or B, who just believe this idiocy, which of course would make them one who believes idiocy, which you can determine what that's called. But either way, they've decided, either way I should say, they've violated our trust. We can't listen to these folks any longer. There's a difference between a felony and a misdemeanor and a civil infraction. They're right in saying that, but to say that it's not a violation of the law, that it didn't break the law when I'm driving 70 in a 45 that's not correct. Yes, that's why law enforcement pulls you over. What the world is going on here? Incidentally, they just kind of told on themselves when they throw their hands up in the air and start decrying that these folks who are being deported are not given due process. But this is exactly why there's a different level of due process for felonies and misdemeanors versus civil infractions. That's why when these charges are not identical in the scope and the type of punishment or the consequences for breaking the law, for example, one of them you get a speeding ticket for a couple $100 or whatever, that's not taking away your freedom and putting you in prison for life. When you have that, when you get a ticket, you get to go to court. I did this as a teenager. I argued my case before a judge. I did. I lost, but that was my due process. That was it, right? It's not the same as if someone who's charged criminally for something. It's not the same process. It's still due process, but there's different processes for different types of crimes, alleged crimes. And the due process for, being here illegally is basically you have a right to show that you are legally here, and if you can't, then you're deported. This is unbelievable what we're subjecting ourselves to here, my friends. I got to go in this hour. See you on the other side of the hour. SDG.